Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We're so happy to have a special guest today, and I'm sure you just heard all about them. And we're super excited to just hear your story and go deeper and just help inspire others who are navigating a similar life path and want to know more about how to be more courageous, how to live more freely, and just truly embrace who they are. We love having special guests and truly believe your story is super impactful and can help so many. So I'm really excited to get into everything that we're going to be talking about today. But before we start, I would love to hear from you. Really, tell us a little bit about yourself from your own words. You know, we did a little intro of you, but I want to hear your own words. Who is Ira? Who are you?
Oh my gosh. So I am a Filipinx immigrant from the Philippines. I identify as non-binary. And work-wise, I'm a business energy coach supporting historically marginalized entrepreneurs with creating businesses.
That's very cool.
It's so niche. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it couldn't get more specific if you tried.
We love you love to hear that too.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad it resonates. It really feels like a culmination of the different paths that I took to get here. And yeah, I'm sure we'll get to that in a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about, how you got to the place that you are today. And specifically, I'd love to, we like to go deep. So I'd love to jump right into it. What are those paths that led you to doing the work that you do today and like who you are and everything that you do?
Yeah, so my background, well, I did a short stint in the corporate world doing training and development, but most of my career for the past decade or so has been around the nonprofit, about working with queer and trans communities back in the Philippines and the Asia Pacific region, and locally here when I moved to New York. And in the beginning, I focused on sexual health and rights, sexual health rights and welfare. And so this work, community organizing and nonprofit work, is really close to my heart. And that's what I actually moved to New York for. So I did a DIY program at NYU that just helped me hone in on inclusive urban data. And so I was moving in that very nonprofit, like activism centered world while navigating my own personal healing. And at a certain point, I really just couldn't ignore how the healing is calling out to me in terms of like my attention and really focusing on that. And so I did some energy healing work, and initially it was really just for my own personal transformation. But I just felt more and more called to transition fully into a business, a professional path for me as well.
That's pretty badass. I love to hear that. Tell me a little bit more about your personal healing journey, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, of course. So when I was in the Philippines, I didn't understand a lot about it. I just went to therapy and tried. Like it was difficult for me to find a perfect fit. And at that time, I think for years, all I knew was I have this looming depression that comes over at unpredictable times, and I couldn't do anything about it. I just had to write it out. And I really have no control about it. And I just thought that's how I'm going to live my whole life, with that unpredictability, with that kind of loss of control on my day to day. Like I didn't know when that was coming. And then when I moved here to New York from the Philippines, it took me a while to have the courage to really step out and find another therapist that might be a good fit, because it really felt exhausting trying to relive like all those details of my life every single time, and then figuring out that, okay, this isn't working and have to move to someone else. But then I found like a therapist that really connected with me in a deep way and really helped me understand my situation. And that's when I was able to find the language of what I was going through was complex PTSD, and like understood how that worked, how like my experiences shaped that. And so that anchored understanding really helped me come to a place where, okay, I don't feel helpless about this. I understand what's going on. I know how I can help myself, and I can help myself. This actually gets better. That's where the whole thing started.
That is so powerful. I think so many of even the clients that we work with are on a similar journey where they're going and they're figuring out, okay, I'm going to go to this therapist and I'm going to go to this therapist. And I think also identifying as queer, it can get really complicated. And also just there's so many layers of understanding who you are as a whole human. And you're right, having to repeat that story over and over again. And you're like, I just keep opening up all these vulnerable parts of myself, but it's not a good fit. And that can be really frustrating. But the strength and courage that you had to continue and knowing that you wanted to find a path that worked for you. I think healing is, there's no linear healing journey, it's ups and downs, and there's so many different ways to heal and there's so many different approaches. So I'm curious, because it sounds like a lot of what you were doing was, talking about it, but then you started getting into energy healing.
Yeah.
What was that transition?
Yeah. So when I moved here initially for school, and then my partner and I decided we want to move here for good. Part of the ways we were able to make that happen is by creating our own snack business, and like it's been on the radar for a while for us to create something together, a business together, but we didn't really have the right motivation for us to step out of the comfort zone of our existing careers. But like, since we really wanted to start a new life in New York City, we were like, okay, this sounds like the perfect time to do it. And so I was in that snack startup with my spouse, MJ, and I was learning all these energy healing modalities for myself. And it just started really feeling like, okay, I really feel my energy calling me towards this other path, really focusing on that. Creating a business and also really serving others in that way. And so the transition was like really stepping back from that snack business. And I started my coaching certification during the pandemic. And so in the beginning, I was like, okay, there are parts of me. So I started out as a skeptic with energy healing stuff. I didn't even like take a session with a practitioner first before jumping into the classes. I was like, I want to understand how that works before anybody tries to do anything on me. I want to see, like, I want to understand, what are you going to explain to me? Does it make sense? And so I feel like even when I started seeing like the benefits and the transformation for myself, a part of me was embarrassed to be explicit about it. And I was like, okay, coaching, I feel like that would be an accessible vessel for me to kind of weave in the energy healing that is more accessible for people regardless of where they are in their spiritual journey or spiritual beliefs. But of course, when I did my coaching certification, I understood how powerful coaching in and of itself is as a modality. And then I worked through my stuff about embarrassment, about the energy healing stuff, and I was able to be more visible about all aspects of my work from there.
Yeah, I love that you hit so many different points of just, the embarrassment around energy healing, and how many people don't even know it's an option, or if they do, they're skeptical, because I think in society, it's very normalized to only seek one type of help, which would be to go to a therapist, which of course is extremely helpful for those that need it. But there are so many different other ways and alternative ways to healing. And it's so incredible that, you found what worked for you. And then you were like, I'm going to show other people that this is a new way of being, a new way of healing, and helping them create whatever life that they want through energy healing. I don't think it's talked about enough what it means. So I would love to ask you, what does energy healing mean to you?
That is a great and also very complicated question. I feel like it's especially with how there's really not a lot of conversation around it, not a lot of like frameworks people anchor on to define it. But for me personally, it's just understanding that I'm a being that exists as a whole, like mind, body, and spirit. Just really existing beyond like the physical manifestation that you're seeing, and being able to work with that wholeness in terms of your healing journey, in terms of tapping into like experiences that need some nourishment and some love for you to really tap into all of the parts of yourself.
Yeah. Oh, so beautiful. I think there's a message here if you're listening to this, and it's that you may be, trying to figure out your healing journey, and you're trying to figure out all these different ways that you can get support. But I think there's a lot of people that feel like there's something wrong with them because they're not healing through the one avenue that everyone's talking about. But to not be embarrassed by it, and to explore, and to go, hey, this is a different approach, because a lot of what we talk about, especially with our clients and healing in relationships, is going back to the root, the wholeness of the body, and connecting the mind. And it's a conversation that nobody's really talking about. And they're like, oh, I don't know, it's a little skeptical. But of course, you have to try it out for yourself and see what works, right? And see if it's something that can help you. But I think ultimately, everything that you were saying, Ira, is that this has allowed you to open yourself up in so many different ways once you worked through that this isn't the norm. And I think we all could say that we're not the norm, right? We're not the average person. So allowing yourself, if you're a queer adult listening to this, and you've been going to one thing, or you've been doing just one thing that everyone talks about in society, and it's not working for you anymore, there's other avenues. There's other approaches that can really help you grow and heal and just open yourself up. And that's just so, so beautiful. So that was just a really strong message I felt coming through.
I feel like there's so many similarities in what we do. And I would also love to know from you, how did you pick your niche specifically? Because it feels like we help, queer high achievers, leaders, and CEOs really come back into their body so that they can create the life and relationships that they want. So how did you pick the people that you want to help?
Yes. It took me, it was quite a journey getting to this place of just really owning and really claiming boldly who I really want to work with. At the beginning of my work, I was holding back and just saying, I want to work with entrepreneurs in general, and being very vague around, okay, this, because as coaches, that we can really help people in practically all aspects of their life. It's just a matter of really honing in and focusing. So I was like, entrepreneurs in general, energy healing in general, like transformational coaching in general. And there was a lot of holding back and fear of being judged, or fear of am I really equipped to show up in the world this way and claim this kind of work? And a lot of questioning around, who am I to say this and claim this? So after a ton of work around that, I really felt and really finally gave myself permission to see how my work in the nonprofit sphere ties closely back into this coaching and healing work that I'm doing now, where I serve historically marginalized entrepreneurs. And with my work back in the Philippines, and even with the community organizing that I'm seeing here, the dynamics of our communities receiving aid, receiving funding, that's really helpful and very crucial in terms of getting us to a certain point. But I'm seeing that there's a gap in some deeper level of empowerment that can really shift things systemically and structurally for all of us. And that kind of deep transformative work I've seen in my coaching and healing work. So I'm trying to kind of bridge that back. And I feel like as individuals, it's so powerful for us to go through that, and that creates a ripple effect enough on its own. But especially I feel like in the context of entrepreneurship, where that whole system is really designed to create resources, to build networks. And I feel like that magnifies the impact of that empowerment even more.
Yeah. What is one specific benefit you feel as though entrepreneurs working with you would gain through doing energy work? Something specific that you have felt or seen, or you want people to experience?
Yeah. I'm really supporting people in a big part of it is breaking through the internalized glass ceilings that we unconsciously have created for ourselves. We've been so conditioned to show up in the world a certain way for us to be safe, or to feel accepted, to feel loved. And I feel like a lot of us have internalized that to a point that we're not even aware of how it's showing up. And we feel like, oh, this happened in my family. I'm not really sure that has anything to do when I'm showing up in my business, but it really does, in the way you hold yourself back and not really allow the world to see you in the fullness of what you can of the gifts that you can share with the world.
Yeah, there's so much that
Like,
people can
yeah.
experience as a
Mhm.
leader, as an entrepreneur. And our whole mission, but all three of us here, is to just help people see that potential and take
Mhm.
it along with them forever and make that ripple effect like you were talking about,
Yeah.
just continuing to impact so many people. And I think
Mhm.
this is all super great work. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you, how do you take care of yourself as an
Mm.
entrepreneur, as a leader?
So I have a very thorough belief work practice, just a practice of really questioning my beliefs. Stillness, whether through just physically being still, or I also do sound work. So I work with my bowls and meditate. Um, just being surrounded by people I love and who love me is a big part of the way I take care of myself, something that I can tend to forget when I'm in the middle of a lot of things, but I'm often reminded how crucial it is. And yeah, allowing myself to be supported. Like you know what they say, healers have healers, coaches have coaches. So
Oh my
yeah.
That's
gosh.
it's such a true thing. I think a lot of people just think, all right, the healer is like on their own and then that's it. But we're all working towards becoming better. And what that really means is that we all need community. We all need support. No matter who we are, no matter how much we're helping people, we all need support. And it's so
Yeah.
important to have someone to talk to have someone to work through all of these things that we're going through in order to continue to take care of ourselves, to expand into the world, to be better for ourselves and the community that we're serving. It's really amazing.
100%. And just the vulnerability too. I think, when when I first started this work, I know you were doing it quite a bit longer than I was. I felt almost like embarrassed to go and get help. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm helping all these people. How I shouldn't I have it figured out? And then I remember like impressing my healer and trying to like talk myself up. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, we're all, going through our own things. And in fact, I'm going to a healing session after this. But, it's just so important that we have that support as well as we go through that. And I think we're able to take and learn so much from each person that we come across. And even if it wasn't the best fit, right, with all those different people that you're working with, I'm sure there was at least one thing that you took away or something that led you to that next place. And like I said, earlier, I think that healing is so beautiful. And sometimes we repeat circles and sometimes we repeat phases and then we go up and then we go down. And it's like you could just switch and cross in every single way. But that's what allows us to just continuing to go through the ups and downs and not thinking that there's an end point. I think when we get to the idea that there's an end point, it actually holds us back a lot, because then we're like, oh, I got to get there. And it's like that. I think it goes back to systemically, right? To achieve something, to accomplish something, to get to that point. And I mean, I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a high achiever, leader, CEO in some form, and you feel that pressure too, to live up to these standards that, the world has created around us of trying to be this person that everyone wants you to be. And a lot of what you said that you do is releasing those expectations and letting go. And that's what we do too. That's the first part. So you open yourself up,
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
What is the number one limiting belief? I know as coaches, we love talking about limiting beliefs. What do you feel like the number one limiting belief that you had to let go of was in order to create your coaching company or to get yourself to the next level? What was that for you?
One of the biggest ones for me is letting go of the belief that I have to hold myself back to belong. Especially since I'm very community oriented, like the work I do with community organizing, I care a lot about like the impact of what I do on my communities. And as I build my work around empowered entrepreneurship, there are some philosophies that may challenge kind of the traditional ways of looking at things around like money and things and power and things like that. And I held back a lot of what I wanted to say in fear of, I don't know, being ostracized from the communities that are really close to my heart and that I belong to and that have helped New York feel like home for me. And a lot of the conversation around that was in my head, right? They're not like really expressing any antagonism, but there's so much fear within me of, okay, what if I say something wrong? What if I say something that no longer aligns with that? activist identity and feeling like I constantly have to hold myself back to keep belonging in these places that I wanted to belong. And that really had concrete consequences in terms of how I showed up in my business.
Yeah.
What did you notice when you let go of that? What happened for you in your business? Who did you attract? What showed up?
Well, surprisingly, I mean, even just working through that belief and just really allowing things to move through within me, started seeing how much support, how supportive and how much kinder people really are, that they're really not out to get you and not out to like criticize every single thing you're saying. Of course, that happens every so often, and especially on the internet, you know, with different places people are coming from. But in general, there is that support available for you. And yeah, all these opportunities around really spreading my message started showing up, like meeting the right people who are ready to receive what I had to share.
I feel like it's so similar. It's so similar. It's amazing.
But I don't know. I really do believe that, and this may be so deep for some of you, but I really do believe that we chose to be here at this time. And I think that we call in the people that we are meant to connect with in this life. And I think a lot of us are on similar life paths of trying to do this work and helping. And look at this conversation that we're having. A lot of the work that we do is so similar, and you're focusing around the business aspect and, helping people empower themselves to grow and, create other opportunities for others in the world and really create change through the rooted vision, that vessel that you have. And we're talking about relationships and community, and it just all is so connected and so beautiful. Oh my gosh.
It means that we all have to show up authentically, and keep speaking out and keep knowing who we're speaking to in order to make that impact that we all truly want to make on the world, on each individual who comes all of our ways. And it's just amazing that it really means that we all need to keep taking care of ourselves no matter what, because we deserve it. And the people that we're helping deserve it.
Well, you said something really powerful. You said that the people that are ready to receive it will show up.
Yeah.
And that is 100% what I believe as well. And we call them in because we show up and then they show up. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And we're not able to serve in the way that we want if we're, talking to someone that's not ready or willing to hear us and not ready or willing to heal in the ways that we want to really be serving people, which is really interesting.
You're planting so many seeds. I just feel it. I see like just the amount of people that you're impacting and helping on such a deep level. And even just the story of how you got to the place that you are now. And every little change that you made and coming here and moving to New York and all of it has played a part in where you are. And it's so, so beautiful to hear your story.
Thank you. Yeah.
I have another question for you because we have all the questions in the world today. What does courage mean to you?
Courage for me is being able to anchor yourself onto something bigger or deeper for you to be able to move forward with whatever goal that you're wanting to do, wanting to create. Yeah, I feel it. Yeah, the way I define it is more on that anchoring on a bigger vision or a bigger truth or something that's really powerful for you.
Yeah, I love that. When you were speaking, I heard the word like being seen just kept popping into my mind. And I think a lot of the work that we all do is helping people have the courage to be seen in the world, their true selves, and how anchoring into that feeling and into that state is just so important so that we can all continue to grow and do these amazing things. But what do you feel is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's just starting to create a company of their own as a queer adult, a queer entrepreneur?
Well, other than just going for it, which is typically one of the steps we can kind of hesitate on, I would say to just really keep anchoring on the joy that has inspired you to start that business or company in the first place. Because I feel like once you start, it can be easy to get lost in your head around strategies and like growth and things like that. But and starting to kind of anchor outside of ourselves, thinking that that's what will get us to where we want to go. But it's always going back to what that spark, and that joy that sparked this whole journey for you to begin with, like that place of inspiration, and always going back to that.
Yeah, that is so profound. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing.
I like how much pause you have in your answers too. You really are so thoughtful and intentional about the words that you use, and it's very, very clear. I can feel all of that energy from you. Even all the way in California, New York, we can feel all of it. And I'm sure if you're even simply just listening, in the car or on your way to whatever you're doing, you can just hear just how much love there is here.
Yeah. What impact do you want to leave on the world?
I want to be part of a more abundance and compassion-based path to creating more justice and equity in the world.
I love it. It's simple, clear, not very simple to do it, but I love it. I love it.
No, I'm glad it resonates. Yeah, as I feel like for most of my activism years, I've anchored a lot on anger and just a lot of like anchoring on pain and struggle. So I really believe that like we can usher in this new paradigm around creating more justice and equity on a more compassion and abundance based.
Yes, and I'm sure just doing all the work that you've done in Asia, and I mean, it's still illegal to be queer in 76 countries. I think that's the number that I saw. Is that you might know probably more than me. Is 76?
I actually have forgotten the statistics, but I do know for sure that my spouse and I are married here, but it's not recognized in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So we are, it's
Yeah, there's just so much to it. And when we can anchor back into love and compassion, just like you said, there's so much change that can happen. And I just feel how much you're going to impact so many people and the work that you're doing to just, it's a ripple effect. That's truly what it is. And that's the most beautiful thing when you can touch one person and they can touch, so many, touch 5, touch 10, whatever it is, and keep going on from there.
But I love that. I feel like this was such a meaningful conversation to see how you're supporting people, how you're taking care of yourself, how you're showing up in the world, and all the impact that you want to make. So as our last question, I want to ask you, what resources or programs do you want to share with our listeners?
Well, I have some. I'm in creative mode right now, and I'm preparing a bunch of programs that I'm sharing soon. But one of them will be around breaking internalized glass ceilings for historically marginalized entrepreneurs. And the best way to learn about that when it's ready is through my Instagram.
What's your Instagram handle?
It's mx.irabriones. It's mx.irabriones. Sorry.
We will put all of this in the description for whoever is driving or listening, and that way you can go over and check them out. We are so just honored to have this conversation. Is there anything else that you would love to share with our audience? Maybe a message that came through or just something that's on your heart that they can take away today?
Well, before that, I'm just really so grateful to be connecting with you both. Like, I know it's about really sharing our message with your communities, but also this connection is so important for me, just being with folks who are sharing a similar background, like a similar journey, and also wanting to show up in the world a similar way. It's just so powerful. And you know how it can get lonely sometimes to be, I know you have each other in this business, but like for a lot of folks who are working on their businesses on their own, it's really important to have this sense of connection. So I'm really grateful for that. Thank you both. For the final message, I guess regardless of how you choose to start or when you choose to start, one of the most important things that have really shifted things for me is just taking radical ownership of my experiences. And that, I feel like once, and you get to define what that really means for you, right? And once you are really able to anchor on that, in that more power-centered place within yourself, then it's going to be, the journey moving forward is going to be much more meaningful and will always lead you to where you you are wanting to be and are meant to be.
Oh, I love that.
I'm just gonna let that one sit in my soul. That is so beautiful. Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much for all of your wisdom, your knowledge, and just your ability to be vulnerable, really. It's for others to connect with you and for us to connect with you, and just showing up for yourself and the world today. I'm just so grateful that we've connected, and whoever's listening to this, go over, check out their Instagram, all the details. We'll put it in all the captions.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
great at that,
Oh,
Dani.
yeah.
But thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you all soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much, Ira.